What is going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a few news stories in the world of tech and PC gaming. First up, the Titan RTX Ada Lovelace card has been spotted not only physically, but also in some shipping manifests with some early specs that we can glean from those shipping manifests. Very exciting stuff. Also, Dead Space already got its first patch on the PC in order to fix the issues with the variable rate shading that many people were questioning after the game launched last Friday. Also, EA has announced that Jedi Fallen Survivor will be delayed until April, and Dying Light 2 gets DLSS 3, not just Cyberpunk 2077. They also got DLSS 3 yesterday, so let's talk about it. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for just $22, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode for Windows 10, which I honestly could not live without. It is blinding without the dark mode. You guys need it in your life. And now you can also save an additional 25% off at checkout by clicking buy now on any software products over there. Just go ahead and add it into your cart and put in my code JP25 at checkout and apply, and that'll bring our price from $22.44 all the way down to $16.83, a savings of over $5. And I'll walk you through how to get your key and install it on Windows 10. Go ahead and click Submit Order and complete your checkout from there. For me, that's going to be with PayPal, and then click on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on Change Your Product Key or Unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click Next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. First up, let's start with Titan RTX Ada Lovelace, or the 40 series Titan, or whatever you want to call it. Who knows what they're going to call it? There's been a whole big problem with the naming scheme on the Titan lineup. Like ever since the beginning, we had like Titan and Titan X little p, Titan RTX. What are they going to call this one? Titan 40? Who knows? But we had some leaked images actually a few days ago of what appears to be a quadruple slot GPU that would allegedly be this Titan RTX Ada Lovelace card. As you can kind of tell here by the shroud for the cooler, it has that sort of like bronzish copper kind of gold look that differentiates the Titans from the aluminum silver cards that we've seen with the other 40 series and 30 series cards before it. So typical design that they've gone with on the Titan cards, except for the fact that we have a vertically stacked display connectors on the back of the card, which could mean that this could be the very first NVIDIA graphics card to have a vertical PCB. Could be kind of interesting. Really curious to see what that does in terms of the cooling, and if the cooler is going to be any different from what we saw on the other 40 series as well as the previous 30 series graphics cards. So we also have this shipping manifest where it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 samples of this card were shipped over to India from the United States for testing. As you can see here, we've got computer graphics card, and we've got this whole model number that ends in EB2. We'll come back to that in a minute. They listed as a test unit for testing purposes, obviously. So I've got 3 different shipping here, 2 of 1 card and 1 of 2 cards, but all seem to be these Titan RTX cards, as they do notate in here 48 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. Interesting that they're not going with GDDR6X on these, so we could be seeing some higher clock GDDR6 memory, which maybe, since it's 48 gigabytes and this maybe not really being a quote-unquote gaming card, I do think we will get a 4090 Ti that will probably be a gaming card, but it seems like with this, they're really not trying to make it a gaming card. Otherwise, maybe they would have gone with GDDR6X. Who knows? But 48 gigabytes is going to be absolutely monstrous. Now, the only big difference between this shipping manifest and the leak that we had last week, or a few days ago, I should say, is this model number that was on the back of the card, which ends in TS1 on the physical sample here, which could stand for test sample, while on the shipping manifest, as I noted, it ended in EB, which could mean that it is an engineering board. So they're kind of moving along pretty quickly here with the progress on the Titan RTX. You know, we're going to have GDC next month, so who knows when or if we'll actually see this card go out into the wild, but it does seem like they are in full production swing and moving into the engineering stage so that they can get this product finalized and probably out, I would say, before June would be my guess based on where this is at right now. So exciting stuff to see what the Titan RTX could do. Are you going to buy one? Let me know down in the comments below. If you got $4,000 in the bank, if you do, send a few bucks my way. Next up, Dead Space got its first patch, which addressed the variable rate shading issue, which was present when using DLSS or AMD's FSR. It would only happen with those, but the problem was you couldn't disable variable rate shading. So rather than address the problem with DLSS or FSR, they just added in a toggle so that you can go ahead and completely disable variable rate shading, which does address the issue and does make the game look a fair bit better. And also, as of, I believe, late yesterday, they also got a patch on the PS5 and Xbox as well, because they were having a very similar issue. As you can see here in this comparison with before the patch on the left and after on the right, you can see on the character model, it just kind of goes from looking kind of flat, not a whole lot of shading going on there, to having, you know, tons of like ambient occlusion and shaders and stuff that really just help sort of flesh out the detail on Isaac's suit. And it's the same case here between all of them. It just adds in tons more shading and detail to make it sort of look more, you know, atmospheric and realistic to what you would actually expect to see in real life. So those are the, we got one down here that's sort of a close-up. This one's pretty good. That's before. You can see how there's a lot of blurriness. I can't hover over it. There's a lot of blurriness in the textures. Not a ton of detail there, but once you go ahead and apply this fix, significantly better, as we're not getting any of those blurry textures or bitmap graphics issues that we were seeing previously, or LOD issues that we were seeing issues with before this patch was applied on consoles as well as PC. So if you've been playing Dead Space and using DLSS or FSR, you may have noticed this issue. So it'd be best to go ahead and turn off VRS, as that is now an option in the graphics options. Although for me, by default, it was disabled after the update applied, so you may not have to do anything, but just check the options menu after this update, as playing with VRS off will give you the better visual quality, especially if you're using DLSS or FSR. It seems to be if you're just playing it native and not using DLSS or any upscaling, then VRS works as expected, but it's not perfect, but this should resolve it since you can turn it off completely. Next up, Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, has been delayed until April 28th. This was originally supposed to come out on March 17th, 2023, but in this big statement made from Respawn Entertainment, the developers over at Electronic Arts who work on the game decided that they were going to go ahead and push it back a little bit further. To quote them, they said, "In order for the team to hit the Respawn quality bar, provide the team the time that they need to avoid crunch, I would assume, and achieve the level of polish our fans deserve, we have added 6 crucial weeks to our release schedule. Star Wars Jedi Survivor will now launch globally on April 28th. So there you go. Delayed by about 6 weeks to add some extra polish onto the game. I really hope that they can actually polish the game, because Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was a fantastic game, but it did have some performance issues, mostly like traversal stutters, shader compilation issues on DirectX 12 and all that on the PC, and even on consoles. There was some hitches and stutters here or there. I'm not completely game-breaking for me, but that doesn't mean it wasn't for other people. For some people, they said that they played it and they just couldn't get through it because of all of the hitching and the stuttering, you know, when traversing around and stuff. But for me, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Ended up finally playing it a few months ago and finishing it on my PS5. So I didn't really have a ton of playtime on the PC with it, but I did have some hitches and stutters, but it seemed better on the console for me, at least. I don't know. Can't really attest to the PC version too much, but hopefully that is something they resolve with this new release and the new game in Jedi Survivor, which I think at the start I called Fallen Survivor, but it's just Jedi Survivor. There it is. That's the actual name. And last up before we get out of here, Dying Light 2 got a 3 GB update yesterday, along with Cyberpunk 2077, as I covered, which added in support for DLSS 3. Also, it removed de novo DRM, and it improved the ragdoll physics and much more. As you can see here, we've got a huge list of patch notes, lots of things that are highlighted here. Also some co-op specific fixes, a lot of them actually gameplay fixes, some technical issues, specifically to the PC. As I mentioned, the game will no longer use any DRM protection, so if it wasn't cracked already, I imagine it will be soon. It also says for PC only, NVIDIA DLSS 3 support, so you'll be able to get that to boost your frame rate. I ran a benchmark and I was getting over 100 frames per second with all the ray tracing and everything on, and this game has tons of ray tracing. Also for PC, they addressed the issue of the darker picture on certain configurations after one of the last patches, and the Carnage Manica shield no longer displays twice when holding the scroll wheel on the mouse. I haven't put any time really into Dying Light 2. I've benchmarked it, tested it a little bit. I'm waiting for a buddy to get it, honestly. He's just waiting for it to be cheap so we could play it in co-op. But from what I've seen so far, the game looks gorgeous, and I did boot it up this morning with this update, and DLSS 3 seems to definitely be doing the job, as Dying Light 2 is a very demanding game, especially with all those ray tracing features. It's got like shadows and illumination, and there's a ray traced flashlight. Even the flashlight is freaking ray traced. So it's got tons of ray tracing in it. It's a DX12 Ultimate title, so it has some ray tracing features that you won't see in older ray trace titles. So it's it's at the forefront of one of the most ray trace titles out there. So seeing it running at over 100 frames per second with frame gen on is awesome. And I wasn't even using DLSS. I was just running it at native 4K with the frame gen, and it took my frames from around 45 to 50 to around 90 to 140, like somewhere in that range, depending on where you are, depending on what you're looking at. But mostly I would say around 100 frames per second. So awesome patch, awesome update. We need more games getting DLSS 3 in there, and definitely look forward to playing through this title eventually. I know it's been out a while already, but I'm waiting to play it with a buddy, because that's really kind of how I feel like Dying Light games are just better in co-op. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Please let me know your thoughts on all the stories and everything we covered here today, and I will catch you guys next time for another video. Peace.